Okay, everybody, welcome back to another episode of Geekorama, podcast by geeks for geeks. We are sponsored by superherofiction.com, the one-stop shop for all your superhero novel needs. We are your hosts.
I'm Jeremy Flagg, author of the Children of Notre Dame's universe.
And I am Trish Heinrich, author of the Vigilantes universe.
This week, weirdly, at first, I did not think that this was going to be a superhero podcast. And it turned around in a way I did not expect. So bear with me as we start this one. We're actually going to be talking about a kind of an oldie but a goodie. Joss Whedon's, the dude who destroyed Justice League, single-handedly. Lex Luthered it. We're going to be talking about, I know, he's bald too. It's perfect.
And he was a redhead, so he's totally Lex Luthor.
I kind of hope he gets just dropped in randomly somewhere. Picture of him.
That's Lex's cousin. He's like Lex's cousin. Lex's cousin Bob.
So we're going to be talking about Joss Whedon's Dr. Horrible sing-along blog, which at first when Trish pitched this one to me, I was like, oh, it's a musical. Okay, I guess I can watch it. It weirdly became so incredibly relevant to not only this podcast, but to 2020. Mm-hmm. It got dangerous.
Oh, yeah.
But before we start talking, I do want to drop this out there. This is coming out on Thursday morning. As of tomorrow, if you go to superhero-fiction.com, we're having a big 99-cent sale, and there's going to be a whole bunch of different subgenre books with superheroes that are on sale, and some even for free. So if you go check out the website, it's all there. And it's, I think there's like 30 books on sale right now.
Yeah, it's just over 30.
So, and it's a good smattering, no matter what action-packed, romance, paranormal. It's a little all over the place.
Dystopian. There's some dystopian in there.
Yeah, my book is dystopian. So go check it out. It'll be worth it. I'll put it in the show notes just to make sure everyone gets there.
Awesome.
But before we get going on this week's topic, let's do some pop culture trivia.
Okay. So this week for pop culture trivia, I thought I would talk about one of the actors in Dr. Horrible, something that they did that has really become it's kind of become pop culture icon status, and also a kind of a snapshot of a very way that we all started watching TV. It sounds very mysterious, I know. But anyway, this week's pop culture trivia is about one of the most successful web series of all time, Felicia Day's The Guild. Now, The Guild was written and created by Felicia Day. She's an avid gamer, and in between acting roles, she was playing a lot of World of Warcraft, and she was in kind of an acting drought. She admits she couldn't get hired for anything. She was playing so much World of Warcraft that it was kind of becoming an addiction. So she decided, screw it, I'm just going to make something about this. So she wrote a sitcom pilot about a group of people in a guild for the game. World of Warcraft did directly inspire the show, but she didn't use the name for trademark and copyright reasons. But if you watch the show and you've ever played World of Warcraft, you're like, oh, I know exactly what this is. So she based all of her experiences she based the show off of her experiences of World of Warcraft and decided to produce it online with Jane Sell Morgan and Kim Evey. And she had some friends that she wanted to cast in it, so she wrote some roles for them, but the rest of it was cast through auditions, and the actors that were cast really filled out those roles. After filming the first 3 episodes with a camera that one of the castmates just had laying around, they ran out of money. And so at the time, there really wasn't Kickstarter or anything like that. They solicited funds through PayPal. They just kind of asked friends, family, fans, and they were able to raise enough money to produce the 4th and 5th episodes, which were almost completely financed by donations. The first season premiered on YouTube in 2007. And after that, seasons 2 through 5 premiered on Microsoft's Xbox Live Marketplace, Zune Marketplace. Anybody remember Zune? That was a blast from the past. And MSN Video. Seasons 2 through 5 were also eventually made available on the official Guild website and YouTube and iTunes. According to Felicia Day, right before season 6 was set to premiere, Microsoft changed. Basically, they tried to pull a fast one on Felicia Day. They wanted to change the terms of the contract, and what they were trying to do was get full ownership rights from Felicia Day. Now, Felicia Day, she's so sweet and like she's kind of girl next door energy, but really what I learned researching this is she is a freaking tiger when it comes to business. She very strongly opposed giving up any of her ownership rights for the Guild from day one. And Microsoft constantly pressured her to let them own the rights. And she kept her boundaries and said, no, it's a licensing agreement. When they really pushed hard for it and said, either you do this or we're done for season 6, she's like, well, then we're done. So, I mean, and it's a bold move. The Microsoft platform basically gave them access to viewers they never would have gotten before. And during that time, Felicia Day was able to actually build up her Geek and Sundry website where the Guild made its premiere and streamed all of its final season. And Geek and Sundry, of course, went on to have other successful shows, including Tabletop and a very successful blog and website. Since its release in 2007, the Guild has received many different accolades, including 6 Streamy Awards and 4 IAWTV Awards, not to mention more than a dozen nominations for those and different awards. Some notable cast members in later seasons include Will Wheaton as the leader of the rival guild. His name is Fox. And also disability advocate and actress Teal Shearer, who I've had the chance to meet, and she's fabulous, as Venom, who in the show, I have to tell you, it's awesome. She's wheelchair bound, and she is by and large like the most frightening person in that rival guild. She's fucking terrifying. Just a great comedic performance. There's also a Guild comic book that came out in 2014 and a Bollywood dance video on YouTube. I challenge you to find it. It's wonderful. The Guild, like I said, is considered one of the most successful web series of all time, and it virtually is one of the reasons why web series became a thing. Living in Seattle and doing film work and being an actor at the time that it premiered, I can tell you that the Guild is probably single-handedly responsible for the huge boom in independent web series that died or thrived and died very quickly in Seattle at the time. You can stroll down Nostalgia Lane or catch it for the first time on Netflix. All 6 seasons are streaming on there. And that is your pop culture history.
So where did Felicia Day make like her big name in the geek world, like acting wise?
That's a great question. I'm not sure there was a single role. I mean, she was in the last season of Buffy the Vampire Slayer. She was in Supernatural, The Guild, Eureka. She's kind of known as the geek sweetheart, to be honest.
Because
I'm not sure there was one. I don't think there was one role. I think it was an accumulation.
What was she in Buffy?
She was one of the potential slayers in season 7.
Oh, completely wrote her off. That whole season just gone.
I actually liked that season.
It could be boiled down into one episode if you took out all of Spike's whining.
But I like his whining.
He should have been killed. That's all I have to say about that one.
Yeah. You and my husband. Okay, moving on.
But what I know Felicia Day from, one, Supernatural is kind of where she picked up in my head. But she was one of the major players in Gamergate. Felicia Day got horribly doxxed. All her private information was released out on the internet not once, but multiple times.
Yeah.
Because girls can't play games.
She also stood up for, and the name of the person that unfortunately was the center of the hurricane for Gamergate. I can't remember her name. Zoe. I cannot remember her name. Anyway, she defended her on social media too, and that was a big. But Geek and Sundry at the time was very much about defending people like Zoe, and her platform on there got attacked and hacked as well. That was awful.
Yeah, I just remember I knew her from the early episodes of Supernatural, and her name just started popping up all over the place, and I'm like, oh, she is that gamer geek that got destroyed over and over again.
Yeah.
And she just kept coming back stronger.
She's got backbone for days, honestly. I mean, to stand up to fucking Microsoft of all companies and be like, no, I'm not signing your contract. Bye-bye. I mean, damn.
It just makes me love her more.
I know. She's awesome.
And her and Will Wheaton, I feel like there's some sort of black hole that's going to open up from that.
From the awesomeness of it.
Yeah, I don't feel that the two of them should be allowed in a room together for everyone else's safety.
They were also in the last 2 seasons of Eureka together.
I forgot about that.
Yeah. That was post Guild.
Yeah, I completely forget about her, and I forget about Eureka in general, other than the mayor. For some reason, she sticks out in my head. I don't know why. So you want to do some geek outs?
Yeah, I'm curious about your geek out. I'm super curious about it this week.
Okay, so again, I'm on this perpetual hunt for superhero films.
Yeah.
And this one is kind of weird. And so I was watching The Simpsons yesterday, of all random things. And the episode is about Comic-Con, comic book guy going to Comic-Con.
Okay.
And he's sitting on the plane trying to come up with questions asked during the panels. And the dude next to him goes, I heard that somebody asked the perfect question and Marvel instantly offered them a job and they were set for life. And comic book guy goes, these questions aren't good enough. So he's on this mission to come up with the perfect question to ask during this panel.
Oh my God.
And his question is something along the lines of, which he promptly loses, and so goes the episode. Because superheroes are regarded as a modern day religious mythos, should comic book companies be tax exempt?
Holy shit.
And I was like, whoa, Simpsons, way too deep for a Sunday night. But not the tax exempt stuff, that aside, but yeah. We all kind of know that superheroes have become a religious mythos at this point.
Yeah.
You can pretty much say that we all go pray in the house of Marvel at some point or another.
Yes, exactly.
And, of course, now all my alarms are going to go off. And so this movie that I was watching, it just came out. It's just been released. It's called Mortal. It was made in 2019, just came out. And I don't even know if it was ever meant for theaters, but it was on iTunes. And I was like, the word mortal. Okay, enough for me to click it.
Yeah.
And basically, the idea is this dude has powers, and you don't understand why. Is he the next evolution of mankind, or is he a reincarnation of a Norse god? So
okay.
It takes place in Norway, and it's about 50-50 English versus Norwegian.
Okay.
And the whole thing starts, he's basically just wandering. He's kind of lost, doesn't know who he is or what's really going on, and he wants to be alone. And a bunch of local townspeople, some kids, start harassing him, and he tells one of the kids, if you touch me, you're going to die. And the kid goes to rough him up and just drops dead.
Holy shit.
And so it starts there, and then there's in this small town, a therapist, a psychiatrist, who she's got some problems. She just lost a patient for suicide, and she gets called in to talk to him and figure out what's going on. And what I thought was going to happen was that they were going to allude to his powers, or there was going to be skepticism, or nope, right out of the gates, dude makes lightning appear, burns down part of a building, blows out the lights.
Oh my God.
And I was like, okay, well, that's the finale. Where are we going from here?
Yeah, you already blew your wad. Now what?
Yeah, and so I texted Trish at the beginning. I was like, oh, this movie should be called How Close Up Can the Camera Get? Because every shot is here, and I'm like, I can see your pores.
That's too intense. Oh my God.
And it is an intense, moody film. It probably has 10 pages of dialogue. I mean, it's short.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
And so she winds up helping him, and they escape, and things happen. So the only thing that there was some awkwardness to it, but the American agent who is after them is trying to get this guy to basically kill him, because she doesn't want it getting out that this dude with powers exists, because all these people who believe in God believe that there's some super powered cosmic being out there, and he's walking down the street right now.
Interesting.
So
okay.
They're trying to preserve the status quo by getting rid of him, and so
that's an unusual motivation. Like, it's kind of different.
And so the psychiatrist is helping him out because she just lost a patient, and she's trying to do something good. Mm-hmm. And she obviously knows he has powers and he's troubled, and that's really all she knows. It's a thin line why she's helping him,
because the script says so.
Yeah. And then everything's going fine, and there's decent special effects. There are a couple spots where you're like, you needed a few extra days on that, but for the most part it was pretty good. And so and then insert a random kiss, and I was like, have I not been watching them? Like, did I drift off? Because why? And it's the only time it happens. Okay, we're never going to talk about it again. And then it becomes the pivot of the entire emotional motivation later on. So I'm not going to spoil it, but we do find out the answer. And it ends on oh my God, what's going to happen? Oh, end of movie.
That's rude.
Did you just literally cliffhanger the climax? Are you Netflix? Because if I wanted to not know the cool shit that happens afterwards, I could go watch any Netflix series.
Warrior Nun. Yeah, you could go watch Warrior Nun again.
And so it had so much potential. It was beautiful to watch. It was really well done. The special effects were enough that I was okay with it. And the premise to it was interesting. And then the ending happened, and I was like,
I call shenanigans.
You were about to get a kick-ass finale, and you were like, hour and 52 minutes is up. And
why would they do that? That doesn't make any sense.
And so I think what I didn't realize is because of super duper close up at the beginning. Oh, this isn't a superhero action film. It's an art film.
Oh.
We gotta play by art standards. The only thing that was missing was fiend in Norwegian. So I the reason I'm not spoiling the ending is because I do think it is worth watching. I would give it a solid C plus, B minus maybe even.
Okay.
But it's not a superhero film. But it was weird because it took that Simpsons question.
Yeah.
And the next day I got the movie that explored it. So
yeah, that's weird timing.
That was really bizarre. The Simpsons are really good at predicting things, never my personal life. So
Until now.
Now they know. So that's my geek out. Non-superhero, powery, Norse mythology inspired, I guess.
With an art house flair.
Yeah. It definitely felt like a Blumhouse horror film at parts.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Not horror, but that feel.
Yeah.
Close-ups. So many close-ups.
Lots of close-ups.
Which I've learned in art films, the close-up is we don't have the money for the location.
Interesting.
So
now we know.
That was my geek out. What are you geeking out about?
So I'm going old school this week. I've kind of started to run out of new things to watch. We did start watching the Watchmen TV series on HBO Max, and we're slowly making our way through that, mainly because it's super intense and it's amazing. And I will probably we need to talk about it. We need to have an episode about it, absolutely. But it's so intense that I like half the time I'm like, I'm so tired. I need the TV equivalent of a warm fuzzy blanket and a cup of hot cocoa. So
it gets more intense.
I know. And I'm here for it, but I'm also way too exhausted for it most of the night.
Yeah.
So I've started, one of our go-to shows is Eureka, which was on the Sci-Fi Channel. I think that had 6 seasons, 4, maybe it was 5. The way they split it makes it hard for me to remember like how many seasons exactly. But I love the show. I love the quirkiness. I love this idea that somewhere in Oregon, there's a little town where a bunch of weirdos are making weird shit. And there's a handsome sheriff that saves the day. I fucking love the show. I want to eat at Cafe Diem so bad. I've always wanted to eat there. I love the found family aspect of the show. I think as somebody who doesn't speak to her family anymore, that really resonates with me. This idea that your family can be other people besides those that you were born into. And they really are a family. And in particular, the last couple of seasons, watching Fargo, who's the butt of every joke, the guy that always does everything wrong. I never met a button he didn't like to push. He ends up becoming a man, essentially, like he's a fully functioning adult with leadership skills, who makes friends with the biggest playboy of the whole show. They become best friends. And that's one of many character arcs that take place over the course of the entire show that I'm just completely in love with. Not to mention, for its time, the representation of people of color in the show, the representation of women in the show, and the fact that they would reference scientists, and most of the, like half the scientists they reference are women and people of color that have been generally erased from the narrative of scientific discovery. The writers went and found them and put them as references in the show. So for its time, it was really kind of it really broke a lot of barriers in science fiction shows in particular by bringing those elements together. Now I look at it and I'm like, well, but they don't have any LGBTQ representation. And sometimes their Black representation does fall a little into the stereotype box. But for its time, it was wonderful and I love it. And so I've just been rewatching that. I think we're in the final season, right after Felicia Day's character basically created a bunch of pod people to replace the townspeople, which is like actually kind of a horrifying and terrifying episode. And to see Felicia Day be just completely cold-hearted it's chilling, to be honest with you. So that's my geek out. It's a show, Eureka. It's on Amazon Prime. If you have a Prime account, you can stream it for free. I highly encourage it.
The last season of that show made me so mad.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
When they go back in time, one, they lose a character that never seen again. Literally.
Which character?
Balthazar from
Oh
Battlestar.
no, he comes back
For an episode. He altered
No.
the timeline, and then in that second half of that last season, he's irrelevant.
Oh, you mean the very last season? Yeah, he comes back in the last episode of the last season. Yeah, but he's there for like that whole like the one that starts with them going back in time. He's there for that whole season, and I loved him. I loved him in there.
But the one after that like short abbreviated one,
yeah,
they altered the timeline, and then when they come back, they're like, "No, we didn't." That whole season was about don't alter the timeline, and you brutally altered it, and then no, we didn't.
Well, I love that they did that. Actually, I love the going back in time and just changing things a little bit, because basically what they did is a soft reset of the whole show. They like fixed a couple things here and there, shook it up, made it a little bit fresher, and I totally loved it. What I didn't like, so Sci-Fi told them you can have 6 episodes. So after the episode where Felicia Day makes the pod people, they said after that you can have 6 episodes to wrap everything up, because at the end of that episode, the government people come down and say, "Oh, we're shutting Eureka down." And so Sci-Fi originally told them, "We'll give you 6 episodes, like a truncated final season." And then they came back and they're like, "No, we're just going to give you 1 episode."
Yeah,
that was it.
And don't get me wrong, sci-fi is one of the weirdest places. I mean, if you look at other shows, Battlestar Galactica, out of nowhere, their seasons were just bizarre. It was great.
Yeah.
Bizarre. And then Defiance, that last season of Defiance made no sense. It really
I didn't see it.
First season was actually really good.
It was, yeah.
Quality sci-fi, but the rest of it, you were like, just kill them all.
Well, and they screw up the last seasons or the last episodes of these shows. So Warehouse 13 is another prime example. They fired the showrunners. They fired half the writers right before the last season, and it shows, because that last season, I'm sorry, it doesn't exist. In my head canon, that last season of Warehouse 13 does not exist, because that was terrible.
And Eureka had that same feel to it. The go back and forth, I stylistically was different than all the previous seasons, and it felt like it. Don't get me wrong, that part was entertaining. I liked that part, but it was where is this going? We're just what? Like somebody was meddling, and it was obvious that it wasn't the original people, because those first seasons were tight.
They were very tight. And it was, I don't know what Sci-Fi was thinking, because I think Eureka and Warehouse 13 were 2 just incredible shows, very different, very fun, very family-friendly sci-fi shows. Not that everything sci-fi has to be family-friendly, but yeah, Warehouse 13 is another one that's a warm, fuzzy blanket for me. I could also pop that in and just be delightfully happy for an hour or 2.
You have Stargate Atlantis, and then you had Stargate Universe. I loved Stargate Universe. The tone, the moodiness, like it was
that the one. It was 1 season though, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I didn't like any of the other Stargates. I loved that one, and I was pissed when it got canceled. I could not believe it.
I like the others for their very formulaic feel to them, and then when it becomes religious, I was like, okay, I'm kind of interested in this. But Stargate Universe was like, let's just make everyone sad all the time.
Yeah, exactly. It was great. It was angsty.
Yeah. What was the show with Amanda Tapping? She was in Stargate, and then she had her own show where she was a vampire.
Being Human?
No.
Because they did a remake of the BBC version of that show. Oh, I know what you're talking about. Yeah, she's actually a succubus. She's a succubus. They fucked that show up too.
Helen Magnus, and it was in. Just give me the name of the damn show. Yeah, Sanctuary.
Sanctuary, yeah. No, they fucked that one up too.
That was an awesome show because it was 100% done on a green screen.
Was it?
Yeah, there was no set. They were in an empty warehouse for the whole thing.
That is super creative.
Which is why some of the episodes take place in a single room, because that's how much money they had.
Oh my God.
So that was a just awesome, weird, original. I was on board for that one.
Yeah.
Sci-Fi
Channel has a bad history of screwing over their shows. I mean, look at Farscape. That's a prime example.
I still don't understand Farscape. You
know what that reminds me
of? What was that angsty teenage show that got canceled on MTV that everyone still references as like,
oh, My So-Called Life?
Yeah.
That's not Farscape. That's not anything like Farscape.
It got canceled in the middle of nothing, and all the people were all upset about it.
That's Firefly. That's what that is. That's Firefly.
Oh, yeah, Firefly. Yeah, Farscape I actually enjoyed. It was weird.
It was so weird. Delightfully, awesomely weird.
I feel like there needs to be a lot of weed for Farscape.
I watched it sober. I still liked it, but that could be. Anyway. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So we're going to go to a commercial break, and when we get back, we're going to talk about some Dr. Horrible.
Desperate to read a great cape and cowl story but unable to find any on Amazon? Want a new anti-hero to love to hate? Need some women heroes in your super team rotation? Superhero Fiction is here to help. With over 300 curated superhero books and counting, you're sure to find the novel that will scratch your itch. Unless, of course, that itch is a radioactive spider bite, and then, well, you're on your own. Superherofiction.com. Real fans read.
Dr. Horrible's sing-along blog.
Okay, so I am new to this. I was told you have to watch this. So this was
you made me watch that Russian superhero movie. I'm never letting you live that down.
I wanted to argue, but Russian superheroes. Okay.
Yeah, I played the card.
You're going to be able to play that card for a while. I know.
Okay.
So what the hell was this?
The writer's strike was happening. I believe it was 2008, and the writer's strike was in full swing. I don't know if anybody remembers it, but the Writers Guild of America was striking for basically better pay, fair contracts, that kind of thing. And a lot of actors, directors, and producers decided to strike with them. So the film industry ground to a halt for, I believe it was several months. In the picket lines, actually, I don't think Joss Whedon ever went to the picket lines, but somehow during the course of all of this, he and I think Nathan Fillion, he and maybe it was a couple of his producing partners just started talking about doing something fun, and they had loved doing the musical episode of Buffy, and they thought, well, let's do another musical episode. So they came up with this idea. They contacted Nathan Fillion and Neil Patrick Harris and Felicia Day. And they did it on a severe shoestring. You can tell these are backlots that probably just weren't in use because of the writer's strike. And the costumes are, obviously from the actors' own closets, probably. Knowing Neil Patrick Harris's love of Halloween, that was probably a costume he wore, I'm guessing. It just kind of came about like that, and they pulled it together. I think over the course of a week or two, they did the filming, and then they had to do the singing was a separate recording, and then they just kind of slapped it all together.
So what I found interesting about this was I had nenever heard the name Jed Whedon before.
Oh, you haven't?
No. And so at first, okay, so was this released as a solid movie, or was it chunked up the way?
It was chunked up at first. So it was released online. And it was released over the course of 3 different nights. You watched it as a web series, kind of. So they set up a YouTube channel and they released it like that. And then at the end of that, you could purchase the DVD if you wanted to, which we did because we loved it. So that was kind of how they did that at the time.
So I didn't know who Jed Whedon was ever. And what I find funny is Jed Whedon has some interesting titles to his name, like writing 23 episodes of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Whoa.
Writing 13 episodes of Dollhouse. Notice anything about who's the director for these? Just saying.
Joss Whedon.
Some nepotism, which, I mean, I would milk it too. So, but he was, he also wrote 1 episode of Drop Dead Diva. So obviously I gotta like him.
Cool.
And then his soundtrack titles are Much Ado About Nothing. Commentary the Musical.
Okay, that's the first I'm hearing of that.
Dr. Horrible, and a song on Pootie Tang.
Ha!
You have a weird IMDb page.
That is very eclectic.
So,
oh my god.
And like,
I forgot that Joss Whedon directed a version of Much Ado About Nothing in black and white.
But like he has some weird non-Joss things like Drop Dead Diva.
Yeah.
I lived for that show. If you want something light and fluffy, that's going to check it out.
I'll have to look it up.
It's so funny. Lifetime's best show ever. So,
I liked Don't Trust the Bee, so it sounds kind of right up that alley.
It's literally about basically a cheerleader dies and comes back in a lawyer's body, except instead of being adorably blonde and skinny, she's this now robust woman who's super smart.
Yes, I'm here for that.
And it's got like 5 seasons of awesome. So
okay, let's go on the list.
So there were a couple things about this that. So, okay. So the overall premise, I did not know what to expect. I just knew that it was Doogie Howser with steampunk goggles and a apron. That's all I knew about this whole thing.
Okay.
And because it's Neil Patrick Harris, I knew that there was going to be singing.
Yes.
That's the only person I even knew was attached to it. I didn't know there were other people.
Oh my God.
So the whole premise is Dr. Evil is just a villain. And
Dr. Horrible.
Dr. Horrible, he's a villain who isn't quite there yet.
No, and he wants to get into the evil league of evil.
Yeah, and so he's a B-rate villain, and he wants to make it up into the A game. And so the moment like he's doing it, you first introduce him as he's talking to the camera as a blog. Okay, your weird meta humor here has gotten me enough to watch 40 minutes of this. So let's see what's going to happen. And Dr. Horrible is his evil alter ego. And really the only time we see him not being Dr. Horrible is when he is doing his laundry.
Which is when he is around Penny, played by Felicia Day.
And so when he's doing his laundry at the laundromat with Felicia Day, he's Neil Patrick Harris.
Yes.
So,
look at my wrist. I have to go.
Yeah. That was one of my favorite lines. Look at my wrist. So I am now convinced that this is no longer acting, and Neil Patrick Harris has actually got an alter ego named Dr. Horrible. Would make so much more sense in this. And then the only other two people that are actually part of the plot are Felicia Day, the playing kind of Felicia Day.
Yeah. She's the love interest.
She's playing the character that Felicia Day always plays.
Yeah,
Not quite a damsel, because she's not without resources, but sweet. You want to love her all the time.
You want to be her friend and go for froyo with her.
Yeah, which is part of the plot.
It is.
And then there's Nathan Fillion, who plays
Captain Hammer. So I had, and I still have, such a crush on Nathan Fillion. He is like, I'm convinced in an alternate universe we are married. I love him so much. And when I first saw this, I was like, hey, Nathan Fillion. And I was like, oh my God, he's playing such a schmuck. He is terrible. He's a terrible human being. And I was like, I still loved him. I still thought it was just wonderful.
And he is playing a very specific archetype that you see in many things. He is playing Homelander from The Boys.
Superman.
He's playing Superman. He's playing literally that do-gooder, but that do-gooder is very much a facade.
Yeah.
He is a douchebag.
Yeah, total douchebag.
But he does enough of the right thing that people are like, okay, you get a pass.
And I full on loved his groupies. They were hilarious.
I have a lock of his hair.
Yeah, this is his hair.
So the whole premise is that Dr. Horrible wants to get into the Evil League of Evil, and he's got a crush on this girl, Penny. At this point, very unrelated. And his companion is Howard Wolowitz from Big Bang Theory,
who plays the wannabe supervillain Moist. He makes everything wet. That's his superpower.
And that's it. That's everything right there. Yeah. And so Dr. Horrible is talking to him, and there are contracts coming in that he could get into the Evil League of Evil, which involve murdering people. Sometimes old women, sometimes young kids. And he's like, whoa, whoa, whoa. Killing people, it's not his thing.
Yeah, it's not him. It's not what he does.
He's not evil enough. So, and that I thought was the best premise of the whole thing was, he's basically Mr. Freeze. And
he is. Oh my God.
Except he has like a reluctance to be fully give himself over to the dark side. Like he still believes that his alter ego is a decent person. And so that juxtaposition is just, it's the humor in understanding Bruce Wayne versus Batman. Because Bruce Wayne in the comic books, Bruce Wayne is Batman. Like there's no character distinction. Clark Kent is Superman. They are the same person. If you look at a character like maybe Wolverine outside of, Wolverining is a little bit softer. So there is a little bit of an alter to that ego.
Yeah.
And I just loved how altered the ego was for him.
Yeah, agreed.
And
how that shrunk as the movie went on. They only have 40 minutes, and it's funny and it's singing, but through all of that line really shrinks until it's gone.
And he kind of gets pushed to the point where he's like, well, I don't have a lot of options. I don't have a lot of, fine, let's do this.
Yeah.
And meanwhile,
it's the hero that pushes him, which is something that I see It's funny. I do see that a lot in more serious superhero stories where it's like, well, if the hero didn't do this, then the supervillain wouldn't feel like they need to do X, Y, and Z. And in this one, it's not the hero being heroic necessarily that pushes Dr. Horrible into this. It's Captain Hammer being an asshole and telling him he's going to sleep with the girl that he loves just because Dr. Horrible likes her. And that's it. That's the only reason. And so then he's like, well, screw it.
And he's heard sleeping with the same woman twice is quite a delight.
Yes, because you get to do the weird stuff.
Yeah.
So Dan's favorite part was the hammer is my penis. Like that.
No, my favorite part there's a chorus of 3 groupies that just they come out of nowhere and they just start singing in the background. And when he sings the part about if you sleep with a woman twice, you get to do the weird stuff. And this girl in the background just goes, I'll do the weird stuff.
Yeah. I know. It's so bad. They have like a dry cleaning receipt, like 3 sweaters, like they're so excited about it.
And so it weirdly, if you took so the easiest one I can think of is The Boys. Homelander is basically Superman, and he's a horrible human being. And so the villain of the story is Karl Urban, who is actually the hero because the hero is it does that switch. This is the same exact concept with music, humor, and way less angst.
Yeah. And way less of a budget.
Yeah. Like literally, Karl Urban's hair budget is more than the whole show.
Exactly.
And so Dr. Horrible is at the laundry and he's starting to get to know Penny and finds out she went on a date with Captain Hammer. And at first, he seems interesting. Like you almost kind of like, oh, this could be a cute couple. And all I could think of is while this is happening is every geek girl out there is be like, Felicia Day, you stay away from my man.
I don't want that Nathan Fillion. I want Green Lantern Nathan Fillion is what I want.
And every geek lesbian going, Nathan Fillion, stay away from my woman. So
pretty much.
And slowly he just becomes more of a jerk to her. Yeah. And what I didn't like about it is she kind of there's a song where he's, his douche level is steadily increasing as the song goes on. And she's kind of like she's starting to catch on that he's not the nice guy she thought.
But she tolerates it.
Yeah, I didn't like. It would have been one thing if she didn't realize it, and then suddenly she's like, "Oh." But she's kind of like, "Oh, you're a douchebag, but I love you."
Yeah, but you have layers like a pie. Yeah, no.
So that was my huge issue with Felicia Day's character is that she almost kind of became the butt of the joke in a weird way.
She really was there to service the male character arcs, in my opinion. I mean, I love her. I love this idea of this sweet girl ending up with the hero, but he's not the hero. I mean, I think that's really neat. But in the end, and her death in particular, all it did was serve the male characters' arcs. And I never like that when people use a female character like that.
And I think it would have worked better if she was unaware of the douchiness. But during that song, all of a sudden she's like, oh,
yeah,
you're an asshole.
Yeah.
And so I think there could have been and I'm not even talking like, all she had to be doing is when he was being a douche, looking the other way, and I would have been okay with it. But she was complicit in the douchiness. And that just,
Well, and even at the end, like the ceremony, she gets up and leaves the stage. So she's like, "Oh my God, you just told everybody we had sex," and she's clearly very uncomfortable. She gets up and leaves the stage, but the last line she has in the entire thing is, "Captain Hammer will save us." And it's like, would you really put your trust in a guy after seeing that? Like, that kind of, I get what they were going for there, but it really rang false for me.
And for me, as just seeing Felicia Day, knowing who she is, that was a Joss Whedon line.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
I cannot see her being cool with that, especially after things like Supernatural, where she kind of got to write her character.
Yeah, that's a good point.
She dies, and she still writes her character. So, like,
well, and actually talking about things that are very distinctly Joss Whedon, he, first of all, he fridges people right, left, and center, and Felicia Day's character is absolutely no exception. But the larger thing is he uses the death of a character as an emotional touch point for movies, or as shock value. And it's sloppy, lazy writing. He does it in the Firefly movie with Watt. He does it in Avengers with Coulson. He does it here with Felicia Day. He did it in Buffy with Tara. He did it in Angel with Fred. You can point to anything he's ever done, with the exception probably of Much Ado About Nothing, because he couldn't. And he has used the death of a character as an easy way to shock and or get emotion out of viewers.
And for me, so we were talking before the show started about Felicia Day getting fridged in this. So at the end, there's a ceremony where Captain Hammer is given a speech, and she's helping open up a homeless shelter. And Dr. Horrible shows up, freeze rays him, and the freeze ray wears off. And just as he's about to use his death ray to kill him, Captain Hammer grabs the death ray and goes to kill Dr. Horrible, but it explodes. And it's the first time that Captain Hammer has felt pain. And so he literally runs off crying. Literally.
Yeah, like a baby.
But when it exploded, shrapnel struck Felicia Day, and she dies. And at the end, Dr. Horrible is carrying her out, and then starts his song into Evildom, and he winds up with the Evil League of Evil.
Yep.
So my problem with it is the whole concept of fridging is you kill the female character to cause an emotional reaction that motivates the male.
Mm-hmm.
I actually felt her death wasn't the fridging. Her existence was the fridging, because for the most part, she is only there. She's a kind of a hollow character. I mean, she's got some good parts, but she's only there to motivate Dr. Horrible and then to create friction with Captain Hammer.
Yeah.
And so when she's dies,
a plot device. She is in her entirety a plot device. Yeah.
And so when she dies, I was like, now you get to be free of these two boneheads. Be free, Felicia Day. Be free.
But the thing it did do, though, is it pushed Dr. Horrible into a very specific end arc that we are led to believe he wouldn't have gotten to without her death. And that, to me, does fall under the fridging. I totally agree with what you're saying about her character as a whole, but the end result of her death and why it was there plot-wise, classic fridging.
And what I don't like about the only reason I wouldn't call it a fridging is because of where it happens in the story, because at
the end.
Yeah, that for some reason about that, I feel like yes, it falls under the textbook of fridging, but she literally dies, and it's about 30 seconds before the end of the movie. So
I see what you're saying with that. Yeah, I could see that. I don't agree with it, but I understand what you're saying. Yeah.
It was like a fridge.
It's like a mini fridge.
It wasn't a fridge to motivate him. It was a fridge to end the movie.
It was a mini fridge is what it is.
No, not even fridging. She was iceboxed. That's what it was. We just need to end the movie. We're not sure how to do it, so let's end it on a really sad note. Boom, you're dead. Let's roll the credits.
Well, I will say, speaking of the ending, I remember when I first saw this, it ended much darker than I anticipated. It was shocking because up to that point, it had been light and funny and kind of, there were some things you're cringing about, cringing in a good way. And then the end is that really, like, it's dark. It's a dark ending, and I did not expect that.
And it up to this point, it was all humor and almost kind of satirical, poking fun. And then
very much,
then there's a tone shift. Like literal, like there was visual humor because, you know, the head of the evil League of Evil is a horse.
It's a horse, bad horse. The thoroughbred of sin.
Yeah. Which, you know, so you're kind of like, haha. But at the same time, like there was nothing humorous left. It was all like descent into evil. And so that was kind of, so I watched two things back to back today that end in a weird, like, here's the climax and poof.
It's abrupt.
Yeah. It almost felt like, is there supposed to be a fourth, like, is there a redemption arc? Like, this ended weird.
It didn't really have a denouement. And I don't need I don't need Return of the King level denouement. I don't need that, but it didn't have really any. It's like, oh my God, this happened. And then bam, you're done. And so it's jarring.
I wonder if like they all got jobs the next day.
I know.
Like,
I know, knowing Joss, if you look at what Joss Whedon likes to do, that's a very Joss Whedon ending, honestly.
I was gonna say, if you look at Joss Whedon's body of work, he has difficulty ending things. He's great at a cliffhanger. Don't get me wrong. Like, he knew how to end every episode of a show that made me like, God damn it! Why is it?
Now I gotta watch the next one. Yeah.
But the last seasons of his shows and the last handful of episodes, like, what?
See, the last season of Buffy did have its issues. I will grant you that. But that last couple of episodes I thought was brilliant. I thought it encapsulated the heart of Buffy and what we had all come to love about that show. It encapsulated what the show meant to us. And I loved the way they ended it, to be honest. I thought it was perfect. With the exception of Anya's death. Anya's death is the only thing that pisses me off about the finale.
I would have knocked out probably half of those episodes to tell it was a 4-episode idea in a full season.
There was definitely some filler, but it's a 22-episode season. There's going to be filler, which is why I think all shows should be 12 to 14, in my personal opinion.
And this is my issue with Supernatural. I don't care how it ends. Matter of fact, kill them all. Kill them all. Come out of the show and kill the meta version of the show. I don't care. Kill them all. I'm done. You fought God and won. It's over. There's nothing more. You blew your load 5-6 seasons ago. End it. Or have them make out for 4 seasons, because that's why people still watch it.
Yeah. Aren't they brothers? Wait a minute. Aren't they brothers?
Oh, there's a whole episode about them getting it on. The musical episode that the kids make about...
No, oh, yeah. I've got to tell you, I've never seen the show. I've tried like multiple times to get into that show, and I have been unable to.
So there is an episode where God has been writing books of Supernatural based on their adventures.
Okay.
And publishing them. It gets weirdly meta. But because the books have been coming out, there's a high school that starts making a stage play of Supernatural. And it's an all-girls school, and they just keep making all these jokes about the sexual tension between the boys, and they refer to the slash fic all the time. It is literally fan service. Like the whole episode might as well have been a slash fic. It was hilarious. So if you want to watch an episode that encapsulates the whole thing, watch that one episode and you're done.
Okay, I will do that then. But I do want to say, getting back to Dr. Horrible, I don't think it's aging super well, but I was still entertained by it. I think that there are things that did not bother me when I first saw it that now I'm like, okay, that's sketchy. And one of them is the fact that Dr. Horrible is a straight up stalker. Like, he has a picture of her that's taken through, it's obvious it's taken through leaves, so like a bush. He stalks her and Captain Hammer on their dates. It's humorous. I know it's supposed to be very humorous, but looking at it now, I'm like, you're really pushing that line, and I want to give you a pass, but
the humor of it is it's Neil Patrick Harris.
Yes, and that is why I'm like willing to kind of be like, okay, yes, sketchy, but I love you, Neil Patrick Harris.
And the fact that Doogie Howser is stalking you on your date.
Yeah.
I
know. I used to have such a crush on Neil Patrick Harris. Broke my heart when I found out he was gay. I was like, oh.
Him and his husband are adorable.
Oh my God, they're freaking just, yeah. I could watch them do something all day.
So the other big piece of it is a musical. Yeah. And I'm gonna say, sorry, Jed Whedon, you didn't hire the best man for the job.
You didn't like the songs?
I thought the music. So if you pulled apart the actual lyrics, I really did like the lyrics in the songs. Yeah. The music piece of it. So, and I'm comparing this against the musical episode of Buffy. That all the music felt fully realized. In this, it felt like we can't get someone good.
Well, no. They probably couldn't.
It was enjoyable. I would put it at a good C+. They obviously couldn't afford the A league, you know.
Yeah. Well, but I was actually really surprised to hear, like, I knew Felicia Day could sing, and I knew Neil Patrick Harris could sing, but and Nathan Fillion, God bless him, he's not actually singing. Like, he's kind of doing a talky, singy thing, but I thought he pulled it off. And honestly, like, the first time we see him on top of the van and he's singing with the wind blowing in his hair, I just was dying. That still, like 12 years after I first saw it, it still slayed me. I was snort laughing.
My favorite song is the duet with Neil Patrick Harris and Felicia Day.
Yeah.
It has a nice melody and a nice counter melody when they're singing at the same time, but they're singing two parts that are the opposite ends of a story. And I was like, this is bizarrely poetic.
Yeah.
And compared to the
other, it reminded me of Buffy. It reminded me of that musical episode of Buffy.
That one, it really reminded me of Xander and Anya singing.
Oh yeah.
It had that feel to it.
Yeah.
And so the others, I was like, they're fun, but hands down, the literal best part is the trio chorus super fans that have nothing to do with this plot whatsoever.
I know. They just materialize, like, literally out of the blue.
And then there was a joke before the guy sang. So it's the trio singing, and there was like some sort of gay joke in there, like not like a negative gay joke, but like something about men loving him or something. And all of a sudden, the I'm willing to take some bets that the dude was gay, starts singing very proudly, and I was like, oh, that's funny. Like, I had to pause for. Like,
I have to admit, I liked the last song. I liked the darker song that Neil Patrick Harris does at the very end. I don't know why. I really liked that one.
You know what this kind of reminded me of now that I think about it? Have you ever watched Crazy Ex-Girlfriend?
Yes. I love that. Well, I used to love that show, and then I was like, none of you are redeemable, and I can no longer watch this.
Oh my God. That last season, I showed up like I literally had a timer on my watch for when the episode hit Hulu. That's how
I wanted to, but I just was like, I couldn't get behind the main character's actions anymore. I just couldn't.
Oh, her whole last season is the second to last, the episode of that season finale gets dark. Like CW signed off on this kind of dark, and then the whole end of the show, they knew it was ending, and Rachel Bloom, I can't think of her name.
The main character.
Yeah, the main character. Basically said, we are going to end this showing exactly what mental health looks like. And they're like, well, we wanted to end on a happy note. And she was like, that's not how it works.
Wow.
And at the end of the episode, you're like, when the whole thing was over, you're like, I feel targeted. Like that. Oh, crap. Like there's no warm and fuzzy. There is.
Oh, wow.
There is real and really good music.
I really kind of feel like I want to see it now. But that's the feeling I got at the end of this, though, is this, it did take me by surprise. And the dark timbre of the song, though, didn't feel like a warning, oddly enough. And I feel like I should have seen it as a sign of how it was going to just end. But I didn't, because the whole thing had been uplifting to that point, you know?
And it's not like we didn't have the cues that it was going there. I mean,
exactly.
That's literally the opening piece of it. The other thing that I thought was funny, which I know you were talking about it not aging well. I think so. I'm a high school teacher and a college professor, and I literally sit on Zoom all day long. So I go from a Zoom call to my lunch break, and I was like, oh, watch my lunch break. So I shut off Zoom, turn this on, and it's Dr. Horrible right here in the camera, talking to the camera because it's his video blog.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I just logged off of a Zoom call to be in a Zoom call with Neil Patrick Harris. And that's kind of what it felt like.
Yeah.
All it needed was the little Zoom control in the bottom right corner, and it would have been Corona Dr. Horrible.
See, and that's where I think it has come full circle. It's come back around to some of the themes being, and that the framing of it being very 2020. The way he's talking about how, you know, we as a society are like this, it's a very doom and gloom look at things, which I was like, this kind of fits the year if you think about it. It was very fitting.
And because people have been quarantined, they've been finding weird outlets of, like, I literally just watched an entire symphony performing on Zoom, and it was amazing. And this almost could have been Corona Dr. Horrible. Like,
it could have, yeah.
There are parts where you're like, I feel too in isolation watching this. Like, the actual parts where Neil Patrick Harris and Felicia Day are like interacting at the laundromat, I was like, oh, this is what it's like to be near people. I miss you.
To not be afraid of catching a deadly virus. Oh my God.
Oh my God, you guys both touch the same spork. Someone's going to die.
Yeah, exactly. Where's your mask? Where's your mask?
I watch reality TV right now. So it was all filmed before Corona. And I watch it, like these horrible, horrible Bravo shows. I'm watching it because I'm like, oh, that's what it was like to go out and not have a mask. Oh, I miss those days.
So are we going to recommend Dr. Horrible? Would you recommend it to our listeners?
I would absolutely recommend it. One, it's only 40 minutes, so it's not like you're investing a whole lot. And it it's fun. It's campy. And it is kind of the campy that you kind of expect of Neil Patrick Harris. Like, he's gone off the rails quite a bit. And in an awesome, awesome way.
Yeah.
And you know what I started thinking of, like, who else do I want to see in the remake of this? And I want to see someone like who can poke this weird fun at themselves, like Ian McKellen. Like
Ian McKellen.
Yes, Ian McKellen can be the older Dr. Horrible. We can have a flash. But like everyone in it laughs at themselves, and you're in on the boat with them. So it was definitely a very geeky, warm thing. Even though at the end you're like, damn. But at the same time, that's not where I expected it to go. So even on my predictability meter, it surprised. So, and the music, while I wasn't a huge fan of it, there were definitely a couple songs where I was like, oh, I see the appeal now. So I think people, geeks, fans of musicals, fans of superhero villain. Oh, the other thing, and we had talked about this earlier, is it's weirdly close to the plot Soon I Will Be Invincible by Austin Grossman.
Yes, it is. So if you're out there looking for more Dr. Horrible-like things, I would highly recommend checking out Soon I Will Be Invincible.
The whole thing is about a supervillain who's super smart, and he's going to go out and conquer the world, but it's failed every time before, and he knows this time's going to fail, but it's just what evil villains do.
It's what he does.
And it's that dry humor, and I thought it was delightful. So
I could see Neil Patrick Harris playing that part too. I could hear him in my head actually playing that part. He'd be really good.
I could so see that. Actually, I could see Nathan Fillion being the villain in that one too.
Oh my God.
He can't play Green Lantern. He needs to play Sinestro, apparently.
Oh, but I love him. I also would highly recommend it. And Remy had a hard time finding it, but you can find the full movie on YouTube, of all places. Do not pay $20 to rent it. Do not do it. Go to YouTube. It's free.
I was ready to can this episode because I was like, I'm not paying $20 for 40 minutes. I'll pay $20 for a full movie, but not 40 minutes. That's where I'm drawing the line. And then of all the places I didn't look, YouTube, the whole thing. YouTube. Oh, and it was good quality. I mean, as good quality as it was in 2007. So, for free. I don't know if it's legal, but it's there.
Who knows? Hopefully our episode won't flag it.
That's for YouTube to figure out, not me.
Yeah, exactly. All right, we need a question of the week.
Because now that we've talked musicals, I am curious, and I will actually do this as my geek out for next week. It gives me motivation. Okay. What is your favorite musical? Doesn't even have to be geek related. I'm just curious, musical in general.
That's a good question. We should do a musical episode, our next episode.
I have one to recommend that Dan is going to hate.
Yeah, Dan doesn't generally like musicals, and I do. I like musicals. So there we go.
One of my favorite across the board is now I'm going to forget the name.
Is it Andrew Lloyd Webber?
It has Sarah Brightman in it, so close enough.
Is it Phantom of the Opera?
Oh God, no. Ew, no.
Don't judge me. That's one of my favorites. Talk about dysfunctional relationships. Dear God.
It has Paris Hilton in it, and Paris Hilton can sing.
Okay, you have to save this for next week.
Repo, the genetic opera.
Okay. I have never heard of this before.
It is
I gotta look this up.
It is sci-fi, extreme, drug addiction. Oh, Giles from Buffy is in it.
Now I have to. Crap. You found my weak spot.
I've been thinking about this forever. Why didn't I just lead with, oh, I got a musical with Giles in it. Just watch it.
Yeah, I totally would have. Anthony Stewart Head.
I led with Paris Hilton.
Yeah, that was a mistake. Okay. So, question of the week. What is your favorite musical? We will be back in 2 weeks. And I think we should do a musical episode. I think that will be a lot of fun, just to kind of break things up for the end of the year. You can comment here. You can hit us up on Facebook at Superhero Fiction. And you can sign up for the Superhero Fiction newsletter. Every month, you will get a newsletter about all the new releases and also a highlight from our editorial review staff. And it's great.
All right, everybody. Have a good week.
Bye.
To stay up to date with the Geekorama podcast, you can watch our videos on YouTube or subscribe to us on Apple Podcasts. And if you enjoy the show, leave us a review or hit the thumbs up button. New episodes are released on Thursdays for podcast listeners and YouTube fans.